This is my grandpa's talk show.
Hello and welcome to Nature Talk News, brought to you by James, a.k.a. Hiker James, from the Sunshine State of Southwest Florida. Where there's nature, there's news.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Nature Talk News. And today we will have Mary from Bridge Rescue for Dogs in Tucson, Arizona, telling about her business and what we can do to help.
Hello?
Hello, is this Mary?
This is she.
Hey, this is James from the radio show. We calling to do the little interview that we was talking about this week. So, you are with Bridge Dog Rescue out there. Are you in Tucson?
Yeah, we're Bridge Rescue for Dogs here in Tucson, Arizona.
Okay. And what caught my attention, Amy Ganos, as a friend of mine on Facebook, I had her on the show last week talking about PACC, P-A-C-C, Pima County Care Center. I just, she gave me your name and said that you might be interested in doing this interview, so that's when I got a hold of you. And so why don't you start out and tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the dog care, and then we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good. Well, Bridge Rescue for Dogs has been in official operation since January of this year. We were officially incorporated in Arizona back in June, and then we received our 501c3 determination letter in December. We are a foster-based rescue, meaning we don't operate a shelter facility. We have fosters and volunteers. We're almost 90 fosters and volunteers strong now. So I've been pretty much working with Bridge Rescue from the very beginning, along with two of my other board members who were on the board at the beginning as well. And then we've recently added a new board member within the last couple of months. Our rescue primarily pulls from Pima Animal Care Center, which is the county municipal shelter. It's an open access shelter, meaning they have to accept every single animal that is brought into them, unlike some of the other local shelters who, when they're full, can close their doors. Pima Animal Care Center can't do that. So that means that they typically are pretty overloaded with shelter pets, and our focus is to really help get primarily the dogs. We aren't a cat rescue, but to get the dogs out of the shelter, especially those that are experiencing distress and stress and trauma from living in a loud, scary place, which, all shelters pretty much are. So we focus on those dogs. We also have rescue dogs from the street. We have a dog trap that we've used successfully on numerous occasions. And we also provide community support. So if people call us, and a lot of times we get phone calls from people who are just hoping they can relinquish their animal to us. And one of our focuses is to try to help people keep the animal in their home to the extent we can. So we also bridge, and we call ourselves Bridge Rescue for a reason, because we try to bridge to the community, bridge to the shelters, bridge to the dogs and the volunteers. And in this particular instance, we try to bridge to trainers and other support services that can help these distressed families keep their dog in their home. And to date, we've had a pretty good track record of that. Now, all of this costs money, and so we rely solely on donations that we receive from the community and people who take an interest in animal welfare. People
are actually willing, are they, is it recurring people that help donate things like this? Or is it just whoever hears about it? Because I was going to put the website on the show notes, let people know how they can get a hold of you.
That would be fabulous. If folks would be interested in helping support us, we do have a number of recurring donors. We worry a little bit that we keep tapping the same donor base over and over again. So we are trying to diversify. We also focus on establishing fun events, fundraising events. For example, we held a car wash about a month ago. We did a silent auction. We did a painting party. We try to do events that allow us to connect with people who are our donors, and so that they can sort of put a face to what we do. We even bring some of the dogs we've rescued, that people can see those dogs and see how happy they are once they got out of the shelter. Happy to give you contact information for Bridge at some point in the interview whenever you think that's appropriate.
Now, can you adopt out a dog? Like when you take some dogs to the events and show to the people, can you adopt them out right there, or do they have to come to your center?
If people come to our events, it's sort of a case-by-case basis. We in a lot of cases have driven the dog right there on the spot and gone home with the prospective adopter. We like to do what we call a yard check, just to make sure that the dog, if the dog is known for jumping or known for digging, we like to be able to give some, I guess I would call it technical assistance to the adopter to help identify some spots maybe in their yard where the dog might be able to scramble up the fence or find a loose spot in the fence. So we like to be able to help coach people so that the adoption is successful. We don't want somebody to lose their new dog, and we've seen too many stories of that happening, and we try to do whatever we can prospectively to prevent things from happening. But yes, we would be able to adopt the dog out. Again, we do an application. We want to know how many other dogs are in the home. If there are other dogs in the home, we would require a meet and greet to make sure that the dogs are going to get along. Some dogs do just fine with every dog, and other dogs it's a chemistry thing. So we really need to, check on that and make sure that it's going to be a good fit.
I seen somewhere the other day where a woman, I don't remember what rescue place it was. I look at so many of them, but this woman adopted a dog that had a terminal illness, and it wasn't expected to live but maybe 6 months to a year. And she adopted that dog so she could take it on its last journey. She wanted to make the dog feel at home, and knowing that the dog wasn't going to live very much longer, and she just wanted to let the dog be happy. And there's lots of different kind of people out there that will help out in any way they can. It's really nice to have something like that, because even the no-kill, I hate saying that word no-kill because that sounds mean, but most of the places are not no-kill, but the no-kill places still have a percentage that they have to, because there's just something wrong with them, that there's no way to, surgery, medication, or anything else is not going to help it, and they have to do that.
That's where we step in, too, and that's where we step in as a rescue, because a lot of times the negative behavior is stemming directly from the dog trying to cope in the shelter environment. Once you get the dog out of that horribly stressful environment, the dog decompresses. That's how we call it. Calms down, gets a good night's sleep. Because these dogs are barking constantly at the shelter. And so getting the dogs just even out of that shelter environment is, why fostering is such a lifesaver for these dogs, and getting them into more of a normalized home environment. I'm happy to say that with Pima Animal Care Center, Even though they are not technically a no-kill shelter, they are striving towards becoming that, and we're hoping to play a role in helping accomplish that with them. There are dogs that don't even make it to the adoption line because they're not considered adoptable in a typical family situation. So, at this point, we are still somewhat of a fledgling rescue, but we have lofty goals, and we are hoping to be able to help work with the shelter to dig even deeper than where we've been in terms of reaching out and helping those dogs that may not even make it on the adoption line. And our 10-year goal is we would love to be able to launch a sanctuary for dogs who would not otherwise be considered adoptable. Dogs can live a happy life in a, maybe not a home, but in an environment that's much more conducive to their well-being than a shelter would be.
Now, where you're at, do you have room to expand, or would you have to go to another building somewhere?
Well, we don't have a building at all. We are completely 100% foster-based.
Okay.
So all of our dogs are in a home.
Right.
So, yeah, we would have to secure property. We would need to, launch a capital campaign to do that. But we do have a rescue, another shelter actually in town who has recently moved out to a big plot of land, and so we've been bridging to them, and they've expressed an interest. They like our idea, and so we do have a possibility of sharing some space with them in the coming years.
Now, I heard that Pima is going to expand a little bit out there. Will that kind of raise their percentage then, or for no-kill? Or is that just more room that they actually need for what they've got?
Well, Pima County and the voters of Pima County voted to replace the shelter with a new modernized shelter, which we think is fabulous. So that rebuild is definitely going to contribute positively to the potential for no-kill. They don't have the space for a sanctuary per se, so that would not be something that would be part of the plan. But we are hoping that with the improvement of the shelter facility, that will help make our jobs easier, and hopefully there will be fewer dogs that find themselves in those dire circumstances where they really have to get out of the shelter environment, because they don't have any other options. They're not able to essentially survive in that environment without being pulled by a rescue.
So, putting everything all back in perspective there, then you don't have a facility, but you adopt the dogs out. Now, so you don't even really get to take the dogs out of Pima until you've got someone that would adopt it? Do you have to wait until somebody wants a dog before you take it from Pima?
It can take a while. It's the typical cycle is like what just happened yesterday. A list came out on Thursday evening of, I believe there's 7 dogs right now that are at risk, that are on what they call the short-term rescue list. I actually have a different name for that. I call it the suffering traumatized rescue dog list. That is what I think is happening with those dogs. And those dogs need out of the shelter. They simply need to be out of the shelter. They need to either be adopted by someone who comes to the shelter and adopts them, or they need to be rescued by a rescue like Bridge Rescue and placed in foster care. Once the dog is placed in foster care, it depends on, kind of where the dog is at. Oftentimes the dog needs some decompression time to get used to living in a home before it's really appropriate for us to try to adopt that dog out into a home, because we want that adoption to be successful. That said, sometimes we also will pull dogs. There's some dogs that are designated as rescue only, meaning that only a rescue like Bridge Rescue can pull that dog from PAC, Pima Animal Care Center. And so what we will do is what we call a foster to adopt. So we will pull the dog. We will let that prospective adopter technically foster the dog for 7 days, and then if everything looks like it's going to work out all right, we will adopt that dog.